Welcome to the Universal Joint Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host Dustin Fuhs and I are recording this on Monday, November 2nd, 2020. Dustin, kind of a melancholy day, don't you think? What with we now have put the somewhat, for downsized, shrunk, how would you describe this year's version of Halloween Horror Nights?
Yeah, it's Halloween Horror Nights 29.5.
Okay, there we go. All right. But that said, I mean, at least they did sneak in one last treat for the final weekend. Had you heard in advance that Beetlejuice was going to be opening, or?
Yeah, we heard that Beetlejuice was supposed to make an appearance at Halloween Horror Nights 30. We've seen all the merchandise and such. For 29.5, though, we didn't quite know how he was going to make an appearance. We were hopeful that they were going to be able to showcase the work that they had done this year to really showcase that character. Mm-hmm. But we didn't know when. We definitely didn't know how they were going to do it. But I think the success of the two houses that were brought out with Tooth Fairy and Bride of Frankenstein Lives, that those two experiences showed Universal that they could do this safely, but also show off the creativity. So I was very impressed that we actually got to see it. It was kind of disappointing that it was only the last couple of days, but it still made it out into the real world, and I think everyone liked it.
Yeah. I mean, but again, just those 2 days, October 31st and then November 1st. And I guess, as I understand it, the tribute store also shut down today. And, I face it, the 30 Years, 30 Fears merch did ridiculously well. Just sort of blew out the door. I guess again we're looking ahead to more hopeful or hopefully happier times. I mean, what was it? Middle of last week we saw Universal Creative actually post that video about the first maze for Halloween Horror Nights 2021, which was Puppet Theater Captive Audience.
Which, by the way, is an awesome band name.
Did you watch the video?
Oh, of course. So the thing with our recording schedule and the way that we do this podcast right now, especially in the current stage, is that everything is done via YouTube and phone. So when this came across the YouTube feed, and it made sense for all of us to basically stop what we were doing and watch, especially when Mike Aiello is showcasing everything going on. It was a great thing, but I do want to be very cautious here. Mm-hmm. Even if we do get an experience next year, 2020 isn't over yet. COVID hasn't finished yet. We don't know what's going to end up happening. Yeah. So always...
And again, remember, folks, if all had gone according to plan, Halloween Horror Night 2020 was supposed to have started back on September 10th and then run for 39 days, and there were rumors that they deliberately built the schedule in such a way that they could have extended that. And if we're being honest and we're looking ahead to next year's event, and as you were just alluding to, COVID-19, is resurging. So you got to wonder, even if if we're looking ahead to next year's event, are they going to be that ambitious? Are we going to see a 39-day schedule? We're in theory. We're at least 11 months out from the start of Halloween Horror Nights 2021, at least the Orlando version. And I guess at this point we just, again, it's great to get a taste of what's potentially coming, this Puppet Theater Captive Audience with the whole, what is the conceit of this? It was, a theater that was caught in an earthquake out in San Francisco and collapsed in on itself, and crazy puppeteers and ballet people turn their victims into puppets, which, I'm going to be walking through this maze with hands over my eyes, no, do not want to see. But I guess again, it seems somewhat ungracious and whiny to be talking about how we only got 3 mazes for, as you call it, the 29.5 edition of Halloween Horror Nights when, the folks out in California, they didn't get any, Halloween Horror Night because, of course, Universal Studios, Hollywood is still closed. Though that said, at least one part of that entertainment complex is seeing action. Did you see where, at Universal City Walk out in Hollywood, they've set up a voting center for the residents of Los Angeles County.
Yeah, this is a great way to get out the vote. Like, you have to get out the vote during this election. And obviously with this location, you're able to social distance and include a lot more people. And Universal is really good with line management, so it makes sense. Now, when you're there, make sure you grab a butterbeer or at least something from Simpsons.
There you go. Well, the setup, as I understand it, they've put this temporary voting setup in the Jurassic Park structure, and you can do in-person voting there or drop off your mail-in ballot. It's been in place since Saturday, October 24th, and of course we'll hang on through. Again, we're recording this on the 2nd of November. It's going to stay up and running till November 3rd, Election Day, and then it will be packed up and hauled off till the next general election. Now, and City Walk, it's important to stress here that City Walk has been open since June 11th, but it's been a much tighter schedule. I mean, it used to be that City Walk was open from 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Sundays through Thursdays, and then 8 a.m. till 1:30 in the morning Fridays and Saturdays. And right now, it's only open from 12 noon to 8 p.m. daily. And but that said, did you see that tweet from Karen Irwin, the president and chief operating officer of Universal Studios Hollywood, where she not so subtly hinted that the upper lot might be opening in the coming weeks to facilitate holiday shopping?
That would be very interesting. If the theme parks are staying closed because of capacity, I wonder if they would just open up the doors and not charge admission and just have people be able to, like, I don't know how they would get around the the political ramifications of, staying safe within something like this. Obviously, they wouldn't have any of the attractions open. But if that's the case, if they want to open up the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, sure, try it. I don't see why not. But I'm not in charge of their COVID responses.
Well, what's interesting here is there's two precedents. One is, of course, what Knott's has been doing since the summer. They opened, they did their Taste of Calico event, which was sort of a mini food festival. I want to say they charged folks $10 to get in, and they got a punch card that then got them discounts on food and merch and that sort of thing. And that was very limited capacity, only done on weekends. Was very successful, so they then expanded it, redubbed it Taste of Knott's, and starting on November 20th, and then on selected dates, they're going to be doing Knott's Taste of Merry Farm. And again, Knott's Merry Farm is their seasonal event. Now, over at Disney, I want to say just last week, and again, this is in response to the state of California's rather onerous, restrictions that are still in place about, where and when theme parks out there can reopen. What Disney's toying with doing is opening Buena Vista Street at Disney's California Adventure, but again, just strictly as a dining retail experience. In fact, as I understand it, they're going to allow guests to go as far back as Smoke Jumpers, the fast food, the quick service place that's in the Golden State Park area. And as I understand it, they're going to be doing outdoor dining that may go down a good ways on into the Hollywood backlot area, but primarily the the area that's going to be open is Buena Vista Street, their equivalent of Main Street. And this is what's interesting. Universal seems to be sort of leaning toward, kind of a Venn diagram of what Knott's and Disney did or are planning. So for example, if you know the layout of Hollywood Studios, you have that sort of retail corridor that goes all the way down to Universal Plaza. And then it gets interesting. I guess one of the reasons we haven't had Universal announcing a plan so far is you mentioned, Harry Potter. Evidently, the thinking is that what they might do is open the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in Springfield, because those two basically back up against one another, share back of house areas. But again, none of the attractions would be open. In fact, as I understand it, in both cases, you could only get so far into the land, each of the lands, and then there would be a temporary, that hedge on wheels they roll out for special events. That would cut off access to, for example, Hogwarts Castle and Harry Potter and the not the Escape
Forbidden Journey.
Forbidden Journey. And then likewise, at the end of in Springfield, USA, there would be a hedge put up that would then prevent you from going into Krusty Land and riding the Simpsons ride. But think about it, that would at least allow guests to get into the Three Broomsticks where they could get food. They could get into, likewise over at in Springfield, USA, they can get into Moe's or Krusty Burger. It's an interesting idea, but at the same time, it's still, you've got to get past that hurdle, all of those hurdles that Governor Newsom and his team have set up. Speaking of which, though, it's like, Halloween is over and Christmas is coming down the pike. And we know this because at Universal Orlando, just this past weekend, they began offering hot butter beer again.
Oh, dreams come true.
Says you. I don't know. For me, it's always tasted like a big warm mug of marshmallow fluff. It's just sort of like, it's bleh,
It tastes like calories. That's what it is. You take one sip and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to have to walk around the resort now.
Yeah, well, or all of Central Florida, actually, to burn off those calories.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of which, though, holidays at Universal Orlando supposed to get underway November 14th to January 3rd. And when Dustin and I were pre-gaming the show, he pointed this out to me, and I thought, okay. I've seen, sure, you've seen the image online where in Seuss's Landing, they were setting up a socially distant version of the meet and greet with the Grinch.
Sure.
With the idea that, he'd be in fact, they had set up sort of an enclosure with a tiny Who car. And so he'd be on his side of the barrier, you'd be on your side of the barrier, and you could do a selfie together. And, given the current social distancing circumstances, I get that. But that's why I was surprised when you pointed out, no, look at the whole schedule. And we've got the Magic of Christmas at Hogwarts projection show. We also have, again, not just this Grinch, meet and greet socially distant thing, but also the Grinchmas Hula Day Spectacular, which is presented indoors in a theater. And then outside, we've got the Universal Holiday Parade featuring Macy's, as well as those Mannheim Steamroller concerts that are held out on the Music Plaza. That's, though, and you and I know from having done our, Universal Christmas with Jim and Dustin event last year, which, by the way, was done with the help of the very kind folks at Storybook Destinations, who are the trusted travel partners of the Universal Joint Podcast. For a worry-free travel experience, be sure and book online with StorybookDestinations.com. Okay, gratuitous plug out of the way. All right, but you and I both know that those shows, people show up. For example, when we did the Universal Holiday Parade featuring Macy's, We showed up an hour in advance, and there were people already lined up, 5 deep along the parade route because they wanted to be, to see this show.
Yeah.
And I get, and likewise, same thing at night over at in Hogsmeade Village, how people, went to the top of the street there and deliberately picked out spots just below the gates to Hogwarts Castle to have the best possible view of the projection show.
Which, by the way, when we were there, the best location for the viewing of Hogwarts is you go to where the snowman is, and you take 5 steps to your right.
Really?
That is the perfect location because what happens is everyone will fill in around you, but there's going to be a section, it's those 5 steps that all of the team members come out and make sure that people keep walking. Well, as soon as you get 5 steps in, you're safe. So it's the perfect location, and but it was interesting seeing that show was going to possibly show up. Like they're promoting it, even though they didn't want to do the Halloween version of the projection show. So I don't know what's changed.
Well, one thing that is about to change, and again, this is Dustin who caught this. I did not. But it's Lowe's Portofino is coming back online when?
Yeah, they're saying December the 1st. It looks like you can book your reservations through the Lowe's website, and all the perks are the same as they were before, which is, you get the Universal Express and you get all that other, the 1 hour before the public, but most of the other resorts are still closed. So it was very much a unique thing. We weren't expecting it, but it's definitely in anticipation of those holiday crowds that want to show up. And maybe they're not just the locals. They may be targeting folks in the Georgias and, in the surrounding states.
Because, I mean, I don't know. Literally, if you go to the Universal Orlando website, very top of each webpage, prominently featuring this warning. Exposure to COVID is an inherent risk of any public location where people are present. We cannot guarantee you will not be exposed during your visit. So, hey, happy holidays. Dustin, I can't help but wonder, given, the challenges with, doing these sorts of things in a theme park with limited capacity, does this now make you think that maybe, face it, back on October 24th, for the first time since March, we got a presentation of the Universal Orlando Cinematic Celebration in Universal Studios Florida. The first time that nighttime spectacular had run at night in months. You got to wonder, was that part of a sort of a test of, okay, how are we going to do nighttime things and still social distance? I would love to hear from anybody who got, if we've got an annual pass holder or a team member out there who was there for that presentation or any of the follow-ups for Cinematic Celebration about how they are handling social distancing at night, because that's got to be tough. Anyway. Okay, and speaking again about COVID and the brand new world we live in here, while we're asking team members and annual pass holders to tell us about Cinematic Celebration, the showing on the 24th, I'd love to hear from some folks who got into Volcano Bay this past weekend, because this was when it was shutting down, right?
Yeah, and just like any water park during the off season, most of the parks get a little bit too cold for the locals, so it's only folks like us, from the Northeast or from the UK who are hanging out at the pool during the cold season. But yeah, it was very interesting to see this, but. if they don't have the crowds and if they want to make sure that their resources are put where they are revenue generating, it would make sense for them to pull the plug. But this is a long, long time. We're not talking about just, the typical 1 or 2 months. This is 4 months of completely no Volcano Bay, no water theme park on Universal's radar.
Yeah, you got to wonder for the folks who bought the 3-park pass, how that feels.
Oh.
I have to wonder, there have to have been some annual pass holders out there this weekend, because the interesting thing I checked, Orlando on Saturday saw a high of 82 and a high of 84 on Sunday. So there's got to be at least one annual pass holder out there who went over to Volcano Bay and got in, at least one last swim, and then ducked over to Universal Studios Florida, where they were doing another giveaway at the annual pass holder lounge there on Hollywood Boulevard. Did you hear about this, sir?
I just love the fact that Universal is treating their annual pass holders incredibly well. They're opening up new AP pass holder lounges where up the street at Disney, it's a different conversation. So I love that they're doing this type of I don't want to say guerrilla marketing, but it's definitely going to a crowd where they feel like they are being courted. And I think the fact that you have the Universal AP lounges, that's a really cool spot to get into. And, why not? If you're in the park and you're an AP holder, why not get something for free like a magnet?
Well, they were also doing, I want to say, a special Harry Potter map giveaway while they were at this. Now speaking of giving annual pass holders at Universal a special opportunity, do you want to talk about this, the garage sale?
Yeah, so Universal Orlando Resort is holding a merchandise garage sale. And for anyone who loves garage sailing, we are all in the same boat. We love deals. Universal Orlando, they're doing their merchandise garage sale November 13th. From 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. Now, this is an exclusive offer for pass holders only. In fact, you actually have to go online and register. So registration begins November 5th at 10 a.m. It's a first come, first serve. The discounts that you usually would get in the parks are not applicable. So you're basically just going in, getting some really good deals on t-shirts and other lanyards and just random merchandise that just didn't sell. So what we saw during the summertime, because there was another merch sale that happened, it was a lot of dated merchandise, and it was also a lot of merchandise based on sizing. So say, for example, you had a run of t-shirts and you could only sell the mediums and larges. Well, the extra smalls and smalls, and then the double XL and triple XL, those would be put over, they'd be taken off the sales floor and then would just be stuck in a box. Well, they actually put those into this garage sale. It's a really cool experience. And if you do want to go and get some deals and you're an AP holder, definitely check it out.
Okay. And just to be sure here, even if you do make the list, if you pre-register on the 5th. On the day of the event, you're going to need what? Your annual pass, along with the printout of the confirmation email and a photo ID.
Yeah.
Also, folks need to be aware this is not being held in the park. Where is it going to be held, Dustin?
So it is at the Team Park Garage, which is off Turkey Lake Road. It's basically around back. So you're not going to be going in through the main turnstiles. You're going to the area in behind where all the team members park.
Very cool. Okay. So, all right. Well, forgive me, Turkey Lake makes me think of, another body of water relatively nearby, Universal Island Adventure Lagoon, with the Velocicoaster looming high, overhead. And of course, for weeks now, we've had the Osprey that's been sitting at the top of that thing. And I think we mentioned on the last show, I was, me personally, concerned that the Osprey story was not going to end happily, that, we were going to have a replay of what happened when Busch Gardens Williamsburg opened its Apollo's Chariot coaster back in March of 99, and that's when a goose's life ended in a explosion of feathers because he flew into Fabio's face.
And if you are interested in that, go on YouTube. It's there. It is such a weird photo and video to watch, because as they're coming in, you can tell that everyone's so excited to be in the roller coaster with Fabio, and all of a sudden you see him like wiping blood and everything off of his face, and it's like, oh, something happened. This is not good. And then all of the PR folks go into overdrive. It's all on YouTube. You want to see this.
And the interesting thing is that there are actually follow-up interviews with Fabio for months later where he talks about how he reached out to Busch Gardens, and it's like, you need to fix that ride. Somebody else is going to get hit by a goose. And it's one of these things where it's like, what exactly do you want us to do? It's like, that's like, okay, keep all the birds out of the sky. And it's like, that's not going to happen. I feel bad for him. But anyway, speaking of birds and the Osprey, thank goodness our buddy BioReconstruct, first of all, sent me a photo of the Osprey landing on one of the light fixtures that's affixed to the Incredible Hulk coaster that's just across the way from Velocicoaster in Marvel Superhero Island. And this is the story that BioReconstruct sent along with that photo. So he says, the Osprey landed on a lighted Hulk. It stayed there until the next launch. This was one of the farthest supports in the water. Hulk was in the flip after the launch, way away from the support, and the Osprey didn't like the vibration, so it flew off. So what BioReconstruct is saying, I think our friend will scoot if perched on Velocicoaster and a train launches. So I'm hoping that's true, because I really don't want somebody to take home a special souvenir from their time, the Jurassic World Velocicoaster, which is a face full of angry osprey. I mean, the beak and the talons on those things, have you seen them?
Yeah, they're vicious, and they're definitely home of the Velociraptor. They are a raptor, and they are dangerous.
Okay. Well, and while we're touching on Jurassic World, on the last show we talked about how Jurassic World Dominion had to stop production for 2 weeks back on October 7th because there'd been an outbreak of COVID-19 on the set. And of course, this is the second time that production of Jurassic World Dominion has been halted. It started February 23rd of this year and had to be placed on hiatus in March 13th due to coronavirus concerns. Started up again on July 6th. And the weird thing is, and I think we talked about this in the show, Dustin, they were seen as the model for how to handle COVID-19. They had so many precautions and so many things in place. So this was why people were startled when there was an outbreak of COVID among several members of the crew. And as a direct result, the production of this Colin Trevorrow film had to shut down again. Well, the good news is October 23rd, Jurassic World Dominion was back before the camera. And to celebrate the restarted production, did you see that tweet of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, who, of course, were the stars of the original Jurassic Park film back in '93?
It brought back so many memories, and I am definitely looking forward to this film, especially when you see that they brought the OGs out. Like, this is just going to be amazing. So I was very happy to see that they were all safe, and hopefully we'll be able to get this film completed.
Here's open. Nice touch, by the way, in the photograph is Sam, Laura, and Jeff posed. They were posing backstage at Pinewoods Studios in the UK, but they were standing in front of the Richard Attenborough stage. And, of course, Richard is the actor-director who played John Hammond in the original Jurassic Park. So Sadly, we lost him back in August of 2014 at the age of 90. So, and again, he escaped the fate of the John Hammond of the book, which we won't talk about right now. Anyway, okay. As of right now, and again, things could change. Jurassic World Dominion is due to be released in theaters in June of 2022. Mm-hmm. And interesting, it's supposed to be the third and final film of the Jurassic World trilogy. Which kind of surprises me because, you think of, things like Camp Cretaceous, which is, the animated series that got launched on Netflix earlier this year. They're clearly keeping the franchise going, but in different ways. Mind you, I don't know if they're actively looking to end the series after Dominion. On the other hand, based on the announcement that Universal Pictures made on October 21st, we now know for sure that the Fast and Furious series will be coming to a close sometime in the next 5 years. And we'll talk more about that on the second half of today's show. But first, a quick break.
Optimism isn't sunshine and rainbows. It's fixing things, changing the way we fix things. It's running the world on smarter energy. Because if optimism never stops, then change can't either. GE Vernova, the energy of change.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
Okay, Dustin, I feel like we a lot of bad news in the first half of the show, and which is why I'm hesitant to share even more bad news. But did you see the news about Stephen Daldry stepping away from Universal's long in development film version of Wicked?
Yeah, that was sad, but it's also, we're talking about a highly anticipated movie. Wicked is by far and away one of the best Broadway shows, and it's been touring for years, and it's amazing. I could definitely see why, I don't know if it's pressure, I don't know if it's, creative differences, but I don't think this is going to be a good time to be in the movie industry, knowing that, COVID is as big as it is, that it's just creating so many issues going forward because no one knows what to expect.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up COVID because Daldry, who, by the way, has been attached to this film as far back as 2012. Mm-hmm. All right, so, long time working on this project, and in a weird sort of way, it's kind of a parallel of that Cassian, the Rogue One series that Disney Plus has in the works. Actually, one of the key creatives on that project suddenly stepped away as well because it was going to involve traveling to the UK, having to do the quarantine for 2 weeks, and then the whole notion of, and also just, let's be honest here, staring down the barrel of the fact that, here we had Jurassic Park Dominion, which supposedly had all of these precautions in place, and they still had an outbreak and still had to shut down for 2 weeks. And what's interesting, I don't think we discussed this in the earlier part of the show, but the belief was it was just that the crew got a little cocky. They stopped being as cautious as they once were, and that was enough. And so evidently Daldry, it was one of these things where it's like, Universal was now looking to fast track. They were looking to start shooting next year. And he just wasn't, confident. He just wasn't comfortable. And I mean, it's supposedly he stepped away. It's all amicable. But again, the plan was that this would be out in theaters for Christmas of 2022. And now who knows? And the saddest part is that this is a project that Universal Creative was really looking forward to because they had big plans for Wicked as part of the Universal theme parks and resorts. And of course, Universal also had big plans theme park wise when it came to the Fast and Furious film franchise. June of 2015, they reworked the tram tour. Universal Studios Hollywood just in time for that theme park's 50th anniversary. So Fast and Furious Supercharged then became the tram tour's grand finale. And then in April of 2018, a supersized version of Fast and Furious Supercharged debuted at Universal Studios Florida. But it went from being the grand finale of the tram tour to a standalone attraction. And let's face it, Dustin, this came at a high cost. I mean, in order to accommodate the 115,000 square foot show building that needed to be created to house Orlando's Fast and Furious Supercharged, we lost two attractions. We lost Beetlejuice Graveyard Review.
If you go back and rewatch some of the Beetlejuice Graveyard reviews, they stand up over time. The last couple of iterations, not the most.
Yeah.
What was interesting is that one of the original vocalists, the members of Voice Play, which is a vocal group that was on NBC's Sing Off, Tony Wacom, was actually playing the character of Dracula during the Beetlejuice review. And fun fact, one of the other guys who is in Voice Play, Jeff Castellucci, was also Frankenstein and Elwood Blues at Universal Studios Florida. So kind of cool to go back and check some of these original YouTube videos and see who else was kind of on stage.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because we've got Joey Fatone from In Sync. Actually played Wolfie, the werewolf character, in the Beetlejuice Rock and Roll Graveyard Review. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it has in turn been a jumping off point, for certain performers.
Do you think this is Universal's version of Jungle Cruise? You know how everyone says, this person was a Jungle Cruise skipper, and and over at Universal, it's like, yeah, but this guy, he was in Beetlejuice.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who it was in the Nixon White House. I want to say Ron Ziegler, the press secretary for Nixon. He was actually a Jungle Cruise driver when he was in, I want to say, college.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, and there were supposedly stories of Nixon, at some point, being back in Disneyland and actually making Ziegler go, step up and go to the front of the boat and do the spiel. So, but he talks about how, again, when he worked at Disneyland, typical day was the 33 different trips around downriver, as a skipper. So
yeah, and you can only get so far in your day before you're like, I want to try something different.
Yeah, press secretary for Nixon. Go figure. Okay. Anyway, and of course, we also had right next door to Beetlejuice Graveyard Review. We had Disaster, a major motion picture ride starring you, which opened in January of 2008 and then closed in September of 2015. But again, from Universal Creative's point of view, this was a smart move. To lose these two attractions for Fast and Furious, ride, because face it, Fast and Furious was an ongoing franchise at Universal Pictures, and every 2 years, like clockwork, a new installment would arrive in theaters. And this started with the first Fast and the Furious, which arrived in theaters June 2011, and then Too Fast, Too Furious showed up in June of 2003, and then If we jump ahead to the fourth Fast and Furious, right through the eighth installment of the series, Fate of the Furious, these movies came out bang, 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 exactly 2 years apart. 2009, 2011, 2013, 2015, and 2017. So, again, from the Universal point of view, it's the studio's biggest film franchise. It's the 10th highest grossing movie series ever, with over 5.8 billion in ticket sales worldwide. So of course, why wouldn't you go and install that in the parks? But me personally, I kind of wish they had waited for Furious 9, because have you heard the rumors that there's at least part of this movie that's set in outer space?
Oh, that doesn't shock me, but I would love to see that attraction.
Well, no, that's it exactly. I feel like, in a weird sort of way, that would, sending people out into space is an easier thing to do than to recreate the feel of street racing, with the wind in your face and creating the visuals that sell you that, you're actually doing that. You're traveling at 150 or 170 miles an hour. Anyway, back in February of 2016, the plan was that, Fast and Furious 9 would be out in theaters in April of 2019. And then 2 years after that, Fast and Furious 10, which at that point anyway, was rumored to be the last film in the series, that would arrive in theaters in April of 2021. So again, like I said, every 2 years, a new installment of Fast and Furious out in theaters, just like clockwork. And this is why Vin Diesel, back in February of 2016, tweeted out the following phrase: 2 decades, 10 films, 1 saga. Which, again, backed up the whole concept. Okay, 10th film, last film of the series. But then, so why is it that the Universal's plans, as of 4 years ago, why then was Fast and Furious 9 bumped from an April 2019 release date to a May 2020? That's because in October of 2017, Universal executives, realizing they could now see the end of the road of their multi-billion-dollar franchise, decided it was now time to create a Fast and Furious spin-off, which is where we got last year's Hobbs and Shaw. But in order,
which you ended up seeing, correct?
I did.
Because I know there's a lot of movies on your schedule, and I still don't think that you've seen Toy Story 4, right?
I sadly, I think in both cases, both Hobbs and Shaw and and Toy Story 4, I have seen most of both movies. And Hobbs and Shaw is a fine follow up to, it has the same strengths as the other Fast and Furious, great action scenes and, great chases and the like. It was filmed in the fall of 2018, early winter of 2019, and managed to arrive in theaters in August of 2019. But as a result of this launch a spin-off decision, Fast and Furious 9, which had its original production start date pushed back to accommodate Hobbs and Shaw, didn't go before the cameras till June of last year and wrapped production in November of 2019. And again, that was all with the idea that it would then be released to theaters in April of this year. But that's how it happened. And so now, the weird part of this situation is because now, what with COVID, we now have a tentative May 2021 release date. And again, I say it tentative because, face it, after this year of every film being pushed back, every film of size, with the exception of Tenet, and with the resurgence of COVID that's going on right now, it's entirely possible, that Fast and Furious 9 will see its release date changed.
And that's even though the movie itself is finished. Mm-hmm. They've finished all of the principal shooting. They could probably go back and reshoot a lot of that movie and no one would even notice, because it it didn't have the same projection date as, say, for example, a Mulan that happened with Disney, where they actually went out and did the full-fledged press run, and everything was going to be great, and they did the everyone was excited for that movie, and then all of a sudden within a couple of weeks they had to make that decision of, people have seen this movie, we have reviews out there for this movie, and no one can see it anymore. So with Fast and the Furious, it makes sense that if they have already finished shooting, what are they going to do? They really can't just put it out into theaters. They could put it on Peacock Live or on Peacock, but who knows?
Yeah, it's such a strange situation, and it's getting stranger because just last month on October 21st, and remember we had that tweet from Vin Diesel in 2016 about 10 films, one saga. And, so we have Universal executives said, did we say Fast and Furious was coming to a close after movie number 10? My mistake. Fast and Furious franchise will now come to a close with movie number 11. Now, again, we are entering highly speculative territory here, folks. But again, if we go with the every 2-year release pattern, if Fast and Furious 9 comes out in May of 2021, in theory, that means Fast and Furious 10 can come out in 2023, and Fast and Furious 11 can come out 2 years after that in the summer of 2025. The wild card here, Dustin, is the Hobbs and Shaw sequel, which would be, rumors began to circulate that film was in the work November of last year. This past March, Dwayne Johnson not only confirmed that a Hobbs and Shaw sequel was actually in the works, but that Chris Morgan had been hired to write the screenplay for the spinoff. So taking that into account, if Fast and Furious 9 comes out in May of 2021, and if Hobbs and Shaw goes before the camera next year, Fast and Furious spinoff could be released to theaters as early as the late spring, early summer of 2022. Now, again, to further complicate the situation, because of course that's what we love to do, further complicate situations. I have been hearing from friends at Universal that because, face it, these sorts of movies are expensive to make. You have a giant cast now. I mean, it seems like every film they're adding somebody new, whether it's a Kurt Russell or a Dwayne Johnson or the like. And in fact, isn't it the next one? John Cena is coming in. Okay. So what they're talking about now, especially given that 11 is going to be potentially the last film, they're exploring the idea of shooting Fast and Furious 10 and 11 back to back, sort of borrowing a page from what Marvel Studios did with Infinity Wars and Endgame. Sure. Which, they shot those two films in one 6-month-long period between January and July of 2017. And then further borrowing from the Marvel playbook and to sell the idea that the last two films of the Fast and Furious series are a genuine cinematic event. Instead of 2 years apart, the idea is that, pull in Endgame, pull in Infinity War, and release them 1 year apart. So it's like, one would open in the summer of 2023, and then the next one, the 11, the end of the series, would show up summer of 2024. Long story short, Dustin, no one knows for sure at Universal right now what's going to happen next with the Fast and Furious series. There are all sorts of vague plans, for release dates for the next three films. Likewise, Hobbs and Shaw. But that could all be upended if there isn't a COVID-19 vaccine or at least some reliable treatment plan for the coronavirus by the spring of next year.
And we're also looking at the fact that you have movies that are incredibly expensive, as you said, to produce, $250 million and up. I don't think in today's climate you can recuperate that. Even if you were to put it onto a streaming service, how do you tell whether or not a the end of your series. Like, put this into perspective. If they were to finish out Harry Potter, if they were to finish out, the cost that Avatar is going to be, but, more about the ones that have this longevity, you want to do it right. Well, if you don't know what the landscape is going to be, let alone the filming issues, we just don't know. Like, it's literally day by day. And I don't know if, dropping $250 million or 200, whatever that price point is going to be, and how much more it would cost to include all of the COVID things, having every actor come in and, isolate for those 2 weeks prior. All of that costs money. So I could see some unique, financing for this thing, but I think everyone just wants to get it finished and be proud of the 11 movies before they go into all of these spin-offs.
There you go. Speaking of producing movies, though, before Dustin and I close out this week's episode, we wanted to take a moment to offer our condolences to the friends and family of producer Charles Gordon, who lost his battle with cancer this past Sunday. During his stint at Universal Pictures, Charles produced some of that studio's more memorable movies from the 1980s and the 1990s. Among them was Field of Dreams, Waterworld, and October Sky, all worth checking out if you're, especially if you're headed over to Peacock anytime soon. Also, wanted to be sure and pass along a message that Alicia Stella of the Orlando Park Stop website and the Theme Park Stop YouTube channel, she recently put this out on social media. Alicia wanted all of you Universal Park enthusiasts to know that there's a new Facebook group for Universal team members affected by COVID-related layoffs, furloughs, and cut hours, where you can connect with others and share your Etsy side hustle. Anyone can join to share job offers and support too. So Alicia closed out this post by saying that using the old Universal Parks and Resort catchphrase, which is "family is universal." And yes, it is, Alicia. Yes, it is.
Yep.
Okay. And speaking of side hustles and what folks are up to these days, Dustin, what are you doing these days? I know, on the past show, you and Jill have been up to some interesting things.
Yeah, we've started the website Wi-Fi Adventures, which is travel and different tips. It's been a weird time to be in the travel and tourism, hospitality, industries. So what we're trying to do is just kind of know that there is an end of all of this, and we all just want to stay as positive as possible. But outside of this forum, the Universal Joint Podcast, it's just a lot of trying to help friends and family and folks who have lost their jobs through Disney and Universal, and just try to kind of keep everyone as not just positive, but also realize that there is an end game. So we're trying to go that way. Steps to Magic is still ongoing. It's getting really weird going back and changing some of the articles, like the best stage shows to see at Disney World. Things like that are a little bit weird, but I'm seeing a lot of friends who portrayed characters in entertainment and in all of these shows in Streetmosphere. They're all coming together, and I think that when you're a part of this community, you definitely want to share how everyone is moving on from that. So that's basically what I've been up to, is just trying to help everyone get through this as best as we can.
And it's a very noble thing to be doing right about now. Because again, it just every week it seems like there's another layoff, or another group of talented people who are settling the outside looking in. And again, as you said, it's not always going to be like this. But if we all hang together. Hopefully,
it's just tough because you're getting folks who have spent their entire lives becoming what they are, and all of a sudden, not only just the one job, but everything is done. And then you have folks who are just like, well, you could just go and get another job. And it's like, well, what if you go and if you're a pilot and all of a sudden you can't fly anywhere? Well, you still had highly trainable skills. So we're seeing that with a lot of actor friends. And yeah, we're all in it together as folks who, are in this industry, and, we're all in it. Just make sure that if you can support these side hustles and people who are trying to express their creativity, even if it's listening to a podcast and writing a review and, sharing your ideas, sending us photos of you being in the parks and everything, all that is helpful because it's all about staying creative.
Yeah. And at the same time, if you need distractions, boy, do we have distractions here. Let's say we got...
Absolutely.
We got Disney Dish with Len Testo. We got Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. We got Looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Z. We have Marvelous Disney, which we do with Aaron Adams, the gentleman who edits a lot of the podcasts here. Likewise, I Want That with Shelley Valladolid, which... we're going to be working up a new merch-based podcast shortly. If you could head over to iTunes and rate and recommend Universal Joint, that would be incredibly helpful. That helps gets extra eyes and ears attuned to the show. Likewise, if you really, really, really like what you heard on this podcast, if you want to head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be helpful. Let's see. Dustin, social media-wise, where can folks find you?
Yep, Steps to Magic, as well as Dustin Fuhs on Instagram and Pinterest. Steps to Magic over there.
Okay. Now, Nancy would like me to remind you that social media-wise, you can find us in Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook at Jim Hill Media News. And if I might add an additional request to what Dustin just mentioned, if you make it into the garage sale, and remember, folks, that registration goes live on November 5th. If you do make it in there, if you want to share some photographs as to what was actually on sale backstage at Turkey Lake, we'd love to see those. I guess that will do it for now, Dustin. Well, thanks for listening, folks, and we'll be back soon.